Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Liz Live. I am Liz Stadt, marriage and family therapist and mental health counselor and host of Liz Live, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. It's wherever you want it. Okay, it's out there and it's everywhere. And I'd like to wish everyone a happy Saturday today. And we have a really fun topic to talk about that I know is something that everybody experiences in life. And I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to, dispel or sort of mitigate some of the damage that crisis creators can make in your life. And I'm going to, of course, define crisis creators and talk about, what all that means, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So good morning again to everybody watching, and thank you very much for watching. Your viewership gives me a lot of good energy and a lot of good flow and reasons to continue, and I really do appreciate it. Before we get started into crisis creators and what is a crisis creator and how to deal with crisis creators, because we all know them, I want to talk about a few things, just personal things that I want to get out into the atmosphere. And first one is tomorrow is my mom's birthday. So I want to wish my mother a very happy birthday. And she would be, I believe, 76 or 77. I'm not sure exactly. But Mom, I miss you and happy birthday. And I know that you are with me all the time. And it's also the Jewish New Year coming up on Monday at sundown, I believe. And the Jewish New Year is a celebratory but very serious holiday, and so I just want to wish all of my Jewish viewers and friends and family a very happy Jewish New Year, very happy New Year, and may you be inscribed in the book of life. And that is something that us Jews use the high holidays every year to sort of ask for forgiveness and to do better, be a better human being, have better luck and better fortune in the years to come, and to be forgiven for all the things that we've done bad. And so this upcoming month is a big month. It's a big month for the Jewish people all over the world, and I want to say Lashana Tova, which is Happy New Year in Hebrew, to all of you out there, and that we could really use this time to really stop and think about, how do we want to be better? How do we want to change? What do we want to do with our lives? So, along that line, let's talk about crisis creators, because everybody knows what a crisis creator is. You maybe never heard that exact wording used, but a crisis creator is like what it sounds like. It's a person who creates a crisis over everything. And you know them, they're in your life, they work with you, you're married to somebody who does it, you're dating somebody who does it, your kids do it. I always think that teenage girls are famous for crisis creation. And what I mean by that is everything is a big deal and everything is a drama to teenage girls. And I think that teenage boys a little bit, but not to the degree that I see teenage girls being really, just very dramatic at that time in their lives. And there is no, in my mind, there are male crisis creators and female crisis creators. It's not just, one or the other. Anyone can be a crisis creator. And when you're dealing with someone who's a crisis creator, it's very easy to kind of get swept into their ways because anxiety can be very infectious. So if somebody has an emotional reaction to something that is really, to you might be like, what's the big deal? That anxiety can sort of, I guess, spill on over to you, and you can take in that anxiety, and then you're in the crisis with them. And this is usually what happens a couple of times until us non-crisis creators kind of step back and go, wait a minute, this isn't a crisis. Why am I getting all anxious and all worked up about this? This is not a crisis. This is not a crisis. But the other person is truly convinced that it's a crisis. So it's a crisis creator is someone who undoubtedly all the time overreacts to things, that to the point where, most people know, hey, this is kind of like a little bit much. This is kind of over the top. This is a little weird. And there are people who are very emotional. And because when you're dealing with people who are very emotional and always in their emotions, they have a tendency to sort of dismiss or not even look at the actual facts of the situation. And so when we're looking at facts of situations, and then we are trying to discern, whether or not something is a problem, how big of a problem it is, et cetera, that's using logic. Logically speaking, when I look at this situation and I look at all the information I have and all the facts, then I can sort of decide, how do I want to attack this? Is this really something that's worth giving my attention to, my anxiety to? But crisis creators, they don't have the ability to utilize their logic over emotion. And it doesn't make anybody a worse person or a better person if you're a crisis creator or not. But some crisis creators can become so destructive and so all-encompassing that those are the people that we really have to keep, at arm's length. Otherwise, they can make you crazy, literally. So crisis creators are people that are largely always in an emotional state, and their emotional state is heightened very easily. Okay, so for me, for example, I'm a pretty much a cool cucumber for the most part. Not all the time, but for the most part. So I don't live always in an emotional state or allow my emotions to get the best of me, and that took years and years of work. And of course, I'm a therapist, so it's something that I not only work on, but I teach it. But a lot of my clients, a lot of people that I've been in contact in my lifetime, really blow it up. And every time the phone rings, it's a crisis. And then when you talk to them, it's not really a crisis to you, but it's a crisis to them. And it's kind of a strange feeling. And after a while, the nervousness and the crises continue, and that every time that person's number or name pops up on your phone, that they are going to have a crisis to discuss. It can be not only annoying, it can be destructive, okay? So how do crisis creators become destructive? Well, their emotional reactions, like I said, can be very infectious. So if let's say you work in an office with, 7 other people, and you have a crisis creator in the group, then, anytime something happens at work that might not be, the norm, the way it should be, they're going to have, a huge emotional reaction to it. And then someone else is going to react to their emotional reaction, and so on and so forth. And you can really create some chaos. And there are people who love chaos. They thrive in it. They love creating dramas, and they love to be the director of the drama. They love to be the creator. They love to be the Academy Award winning actor or actress. And it's a way to get attention. It's a way to, get attention. And, and then there's some crisis creators that are very innocent, and they just never really learned how to be emotionally mature and to manage their emotions. And that is not to say that every person should have the same emotional reaction as another one. But I'm just saying that there are certain things that are really worthy of crisis behavior, and there are certain things that are not. And even if you are in a true crisis, reacting in an extreme manner is never a good idea, and it's never really a productive way to respond to crisis. Okay, so let's look at the news media, because the news media, they are the biggest crisis creators of anybody, right? And so I think this might be a good starting ground for us to really absorb and take in, what a crisis creator is. And I did make up that term, by the way. So if we look at the news media, what the news media does, all of them do it, okay, is they take, crises of the day, if you will, or things that they see could potentially emotionally arouse their audiences. And then they decide to even dramatize it further and create a story that is a crisis. And they do that so that you, the viewer, will be locked in and think that something really bad is going to happen if you don't listen to what they're saying and you don't get all the details about the story. And then, of course, you're going to keep tuning in and turning back on to get more details about the story. That's how it works. And that's how they get ratings. And so all media outlets, and again, they have to report the news. They have to report things that are going on. That's their job. But they have a tendency to exaggerate and create a crisis because the bare bone facts of a story aren't really that exciting, and they might not get any emotional reaction out of an audience. Now, if you think about news reporting, like let's say even in the 70s or 80s, it wasn't so dramatic. Little bit of background music, intro, outro music, but the anchors were kind of boring. They really didn't, they were very stiff. They reported the news, good evening, I am Walter Cronkite, the news tonight. It was very, different. Whereas today, the news reporters are, actors and actresses themselves to some degree. And they take all these little things happening and they add pretty graphics and they add music and they create crises out of everything. And it's our job as the viewer to be able to discern and be able to tell the difference between, okay, that really is a crisis and I'm worried, like, COVID, for example, or, okay, wait a minute, that's not that big of a deal. Because when you're not a crisis creator, you tend to very easily fall into the grips of crisis creators because of the emotional energy that comes with it. So the news can tell you anything, and if you see it in that context on TV with music, with swooshing graphics, and really good acting on the anchor's part or on the host's part, then you could very easily, I don't care who you are, get sucked into that crisis creation and sort of feed into it and believe it. And as a matter of fact, we all do that to some degree, or nobody would watch it. Nobody would watch it. It's, crisis and drama and high emotion are the things that really motivate us. That's why we go to the movies. It's why we watch Netflix series and we can't wait to get to the next one, because there's a crisis being created and it's like a car accident. You have to watch it. You have to watch it. But when it comes to real life, do we really want to live in that state of drama? Do we really want to do that? And I would say no, because when you do it, it sucks the life out of you. And it's very uncomfortable to get emotionally charged up all the time over little things. And it's very distracting and it can steal your peace. And the people that I know who, in my view, are, overreacting or, creating a crisis over nothing, are kind of like nervous hilarias all the time. And they never really have peace in their lives. And it's really difficult when you are dating or married to someone who's a crisis creator, because it can really mess up your life. So any little thing is a fight, any little thing is a big deal. And when you're on the other side of it, it's very difficult to manage not just your emotions, but trying to manage someone's emotions that you're close to. So it's very important for all of us to learn how to manage our emotions, not feeding into the crisis creator. And if we don't feed it, then we don't let it overtake us and we don't let it destroy us, right? So we all have that relative or that friend or whatever, that parent that, you know, the phone rings and you go, oh no, not her. What is it this time? Right? And I know a lot of parents complain about their children, right? And I have a lot of parents who are my clients, and they'll call me and they're like, oh my God, Elizabeth, you know, my son, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of like, and? Yeah? So, you know, didn't you get detention when you were in high school? You know, didn't you cut class every once in a while? You know, didn't you smoke a joint here and that? You know, so we tend to react, and we're not really sitting and thinking about the reality of the situation and whether or not this really deserves our nervous energy or our extreme emotional reactions, right? So we all have that. I have clients that do it. I have friends and family that do it to me. And I've learned over the years just how to manage myself and to literally say to myself, okay, when this person calls, they're going to be all worked up and you are not going to react. And you are going to respond with facts and factual-based questions. Okay? So a little bit about the crisis creator. How can you spot one? How do you know that you have one in your life or that you might be in a relationship with someone who is, you know, a major crisis creator? Well, I think that the crisis creators are very easy to spot because they are always in high reactivity, high drama, high reactivity. We always know them because, oh my God, I had the worst day. You know, Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of how not to be a crisis creator. I'm going to give you a story of two reactions to the same thing, and you'll be easily able to figure out who's the crisis creator and who's not. Okay, so somebody that I know very well, could be me, could not be, was driving on 95, which is the main highway here in Miami, to pick up a friend of mine who wasn't feeling well and take them to the hospital. Okay, so I was already a little like, okay, you know, I was a little worked up because, you know, I really wanted to, you know, get there in time. But I said to myself, you know, if I drive too fast, then, you know, I could hurt myself, and, you know, 5 minutes difference isn't going to make it, you know, isn't going to change anything. So I'm driving on 95, and all of a sudden this big piece of metal just flies, you know, across the highway out of nowhere, and I run over it. And I hear like this thump, you know, this bang. And I thought, oh, you know, shoot, this is going to be a problem. So, I mean, I was on the highway. I had to keep going. So I stayed very calm, and I tried to listen to see if my tire was flat. And it didn't sound like it was. So I said, okay, the worst case scenario is, you know, I'm going to have to pull over somewhere, and I can call an Uber and get to my friend, and, you know, everything's going to be okay. So that was my first reaction. And then I kept trying to get there, and I made it there just in the nick of time, and I was able to pull over, no harm, no foul, but I had a very flat tire. So thankfully we took my friend's car to the hospital, and then I was able to find a tire service to actually go to where my car was and fix the tire, and, you know, all was well. And I never really lost a minute of, you know, sleep over it, okay? And why is that? Well, that's because I know from experience that a flat tire is a flat tire, okay? It's just a flat tire. You can fix it. It just takes a little bit of money. It's not even that expensive, really, to fix. And for me to have a major crisis over this, in my mind, was a complete waste of time. So I didn't. And so because I didn't react to it, it didn't steal my joy. It didn't steal my peace. It didn't really make a difference at all in my day. And it kind of was a non-event because I didn't give any emotional reactivity to it. I just said, okay, flat tire happens, right? And when I got to my friend's place, he's like, you know, he's really super cool too. He's like, yeah, okay, it's a flat tire. And I'm like, that's right, we'll fix it. Let's go on with our day. Now, I know other people, when they get a flat tire, that it's the end of the world. You know, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to stay here forever, you know, and blah, 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 and woe is me, and da, da, da. Okay. And when people react to that situation in that way, then you can bet that it's going to destroy your day. And if you're close to someone who's behaving like that about a flat tire, then you're going to get kind of anxious too. So not only do you have to look out for the crisis creator and make sure you don't get sucked into that and have it steal your peace and your joy, but you have to be careful you don't have too many of the crisis creators in your life, because what's going to happen is you're going to feel like you're always in crisis and you're not going to have any peace and you're not going to have any joy. And we don't want that. We don't want that. So, yeah, so that's how we can kind of spot one. And that's an example of how on one hand we react, we overreact, and on some ways we would underreact. Okay, so, okay, so let's get to the next situation. How can you spot one? Family background of crisis creator. Okay, what is the family background of a crisis creator? Okay, so family background of crisis creator is the following. Usually anxiety in general, as we understand it in family therapy and as we understand in families in general, is really what sets the tone for people's emotional reactivity or people's emotional maturity, which it seems kind of obvious if you think about it. So if you grow up in a family where, you know, mom is very anxious, dad is very anxious, you're going to have anxious children, and you're going to have a very high emotional reaction to people and events around you. And this is basically basic family therapy, family systems therapy. This is basic therapy, you know, family therapy systems from Murray Bowen 101. But we look at all emotion in that theory as anxiety. So whether it's depression, it's fear, it's sadness, whatever it is, it's all, you know, a major emotional reaction. And we believe that it's infectious. So we can look at brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, and we can look at the anxiety that they sort of pass down to their children and that they create in the household. And you can see how it really shapes children, and it shapes children to be also very anxious and crisis creators. And crisis creators aren't always, by the way, so, you know, outward about it. They're not so out about it. They, you know, they might be very internally anxious and you don't even realize it. You don't even know how anxious this person is. You don't know. So just because someone is keeping it in and they're being very quiet doesn't mean they're a nervous wreck inside. So you can't always spot the crisis creators right off the top if they're more of an internal crisis creator. But you might notice they're very distracted. They can't pay attention. You know, they're having, you know, a high emotional reaction. They're just keeping it inside. They're just keeping it inside. So it comes from the family, by and large. Of course, there's other things that can create people and make them crisis creators and liking to create chaos. But you're not going to be very comfortable in chaos and crisis if you didn't grow up with it. So you can pretty much, you know, bet that if you know someone who makes a crisis out of everything, that somewhere along the way, one of their parents was the same way, or somehow the energy or the vibe of the household was a very anxious vibe, and they learned how to react to things in that way, and they never learned how to manage their emotions, and they never learned how to control their anxiety and their neuroses. And so, you get everything's the end of the world. Everything's the end of the world. Okay? And that's sort of how they are created. How do we get sucked in with one? Well, it's very easy. And I can tell you a personal story. And as a therapist at Barry University, we were trained in the doctoral program especially to really learn how to be, non-reactive to our clients' anxiety and how to not get sucked into our clients' crises, which is very hard to do when you're a caring person. So a lot of times when you're a new therapist and you're, just beginning to see clients and they come in with a lot of anxiety or a lot of crisis, you're going to get sucked in and feel just as anxious about it as they are. And when I was training, a lot of times I had to have my supervisors tell me, Elizabeth, you're getting sucked into their anxiety. That's their problem. It's not yours. And that was some of the best advice I ever got in my life. And so I try to tell everyone that I work with, all my clients and anyone who might be watching this show, that other people's problems are not your problems. And you don't help people solve problems by getting all worked up and sucked into someone else's problems. You can be the most helpful by staying calm and utilizing logic over emotion and coming up with either a way of resolving it or a way to just sort of listen to people but not let yourself psychologically get sucked into their experience, right? It's good to be empathetic and to feel for people and to, understand and connect to what they're feeling to a degree. But it's really more productive if you think about it, and you can function better if you are able to kind of say, okay, I'm not going to get wrapped up in that. That's their problem, and I want to be helpful. So if I get just as upset as them, then I can't be helpful. So it's something that I was trained, very, very well. I was trained very well by my professors in this. And even though you're trained, you still have to practice it. When that phone rings and that crisis person's on the phone going, oh my God, you're not going to believe this, blah, blah, blah. You have to be able to say, okay, so what are the facts of what happened? And learn how to sort of dampen the anxiety and, see if you can help calm that person down. And if you can't, and then you can politely say, I've got to go, because these people will never, a lot of them will never really change. They'll just constantly, they love the attention. They love the thrill. They love the adrenaline rush of creating a crisis. And as a matter of fact, when there's not a crisis, they don't know what to do with themselves, so they create one. Okay? They create one by starting trouble with people, by, picking on something about somebody at the workplace or in the family that they try and get everybody on board to be upset about. So beware of these people. Do people with personality disorders, are they more likely to create a crisis? Somebody asked. And I would say yes. People with personality disorders live in crisis mode constantly. Particularly people with borderline personality disorder. But generally speaking, if somebody with a personality disorder isn't in control or isn't the center of attention in their families or the workplace or their relationships, then they will create a crisis so that they then can be the center of attention. And that's the name of the game with people with personality disorders. And of course, different personality disorders will have sort of a different method or a different way of creating a crisis. But people with personality disorders don't generally like peace. They may say they do. I hear a lot of the most dramatic people say, oh, I hate drama. And I'm thinking, well, all you do is create it. So whatever, I hear that all the time from the most dramatic people, and I always just chuckle to myself. I'm like, no, actually you love it and you create it wherever you go, and you're not being truthful. So, and there's a little bit of all of us human beings that like drama. I mean, it's part of the human, existence to feel emotions and to be, sort of connected to other people's emotions. But there's a difference between empathy and being connected to other people and then, creating crises. There's a big difference about that. So something that you want to really think about. And yes, if you have people in your life who have personality disorders, they will always create a crisis. Borderlines are famous for this. They're drama queens, and everything is always the end of the world, and they're gonna jump off a bridge because this is so horrible. And the histrionics, they love histrionics is drama. I mean, histrionic personality disorders are always in the drama, always in the crisis. And narcissists do the same thing too, so that they can either A, be in control, or B, be the center of attention. So you really want to, definitely, sit back and kind of observe a little bit. And if you have these people in your life that are always creating a drama, always creating crisis, always over the top reacting to things, then that could even be a sign to you that, hey, this person has a personality disorder. Or if you know they have a personality disorder, then you know that you want to, just keep a little space, little distance there, because they're going to create crises and drama all the time. So that was a very, very good question. So final question I got from one of my clients that he wanted me to ask was, how do crisis creators actually create it? How do they do it? And that's a very good question, and it's really quite simple. Crisis creators do it by reacting. And then they take that reaction that they're having and they call somebody. Or they run into the room and they talk about it. They talk about whatever is the drama in a highly emotional, highly reactive way. And that's pretty much the way it goes. These are what crisis creators look like. This is what they do. This is how they behave. And if you're in a relationship with one, whether it's your partner, your child, your brother, your sister, your mom, your dad, your boss, your coworker, you need to really sit back and listen to this show maybe a couple times and, really get an understanding of what is going on in their mind. And what's going on in their mind is always the worst possible case scenario. Crisis creators are always hyper, sensitive, hyper reactive, and they think everything is either a death trap, the end of the world, or is just the worst thing that ever happened to them. They're always in that high, that very high reactive emotionality. And when you're on the other side of it, you have to really learn how to set your boundaries with people so that you don't lose your sense of peace by being sucked into all of that all the time. And if you live with one, it's even more difficult. So what I tell my clients a lot, and that I do myself as well, is literally practice non-reactivity. Literally practice it. Try not to be reactive and see what happens. Just practice not reacting. So someone goes, oh my God, I got a flat tire. Okay. Well, did you pull your car over? Are you somewhere safe? Okay. Do you need the number of roadside service or AAA? And just, relax, put on the music, put on your air conditioning, listen to a podcast, listen to Liz Live until until AAA or whomever roadside assistance gets there. Because you're not going to, your upset, your nervousness, your anxiety makes things feel 50 times worse than it actually is. And I think that we overreact with everything today in society as well. And I blame the news media for that because they create drama. You know, the news is no longer the news. The news is like a reality show / sensationalized series from Netflix. It's not really just reporting facts and news. And anymore, people expect high drama. So if the news didn't give you that, you probably wouldn't watch it. You know, if I have a boring guest, no one's going to listen to him or her, okay? It's people need to, you know, they need to have drama and crisis in order to get your attention in today's day and age. And don't forget that whether you're listening to the news or you're listening to a politician or you're listening to your neighbor or whomever or the Facebook dramas or all of that stuff, you know, don't let it get the best of you and learn how to set very clear boundaries for other people's drama. You know, when I see something that I disagree with or I don't like on Facebook, I don't start a big fight about it. I ignore it, right? Or I just, if somebody writes a rude comment that I don't like on my Facebook page or my something, I just delete it. I don't make a big drama about it because there's more to come. And life is full of, you know, things going on and always having this drama. Hi, Sherry. Good morning, honey. Let's see what you're saying. I remember when news people weren't allowed to broadcast their opinion. Yeah, I do too. But if you think about today's news, you know, it's not really news. It's just opinion. I mean, you get a little bit of news, you get some reporting, but not a lot. And, you know, the standards for reporting stories anymore, I mean, there are none. You know, I can make something up and say, you know, an anonymous source. Well, you weren't allowed to do that when I worked in the news business. You had to have 2 sources confirm a story, 2 really organizational sources before you could say something was an anonymous tip or an anonymous story. You couldn't just say it. You couldn't just, you know, an anonymous source said that, you know, President Trump said blah, blah, blah. Okay, that could just be made up. We don't know if it's true or not, you know, and then we just go, oh, okay, wow, President, you know, oh my God, you know, he said that, it's the end of the world, and then every station's reporting it, and, you know, drama and anxiety is very, very infectious. It's very dangerous, and it can literally be a killer for your health, for your mental health. So I can't urge you enough to learn how to manage yourself up against these crisis creators. You know, I've laid out for you, you know, how to spot them. They're the theatrical people. They're the people that just can't sit with peace. They always have to say something rude about somebody else or overreact to something when there's really such easy, mature ways of dealing with things. The crisis creators, you know, the more you react to them, the more you feed it and the more they're going to do it. The less reactive and the less reaction you give them, then the less they're going to give you the drama because they're not getting the reaction that they want. And remember, crisis creators, sometimes they don't know what they're doing. Sometimes they're very calculated. But the name of the crisis creation game is control and attention. People want control, they want attention, and then in some rare cases, they're really just that inept. They really just don't know how to handle things like a flat tire or, you know, whatever. Okay? And I'm not saying that we can't get frustrated by the little, you know, occurrences of life and, you know, maybe slam your fist or throw something once in a while. I mean, that's okay. But when it's a continuous and consistent pattern over and over and over again of these over-the-top reactions to things, then you can be pretty sure you know what you're dealing with. It's pretty sure you know what you're dealing with. So be aware, you know, be aware that the world is right now one big crisis and that there are some really true, real crises going on in the world. And I'm sure there's some really real, true crises going on in your own lives and in your families and in your marriages. However, allowing yourself to get pulled into or sucked into the most dramatic reaction to all of these situations is the worst thing you can do for yourself. And it's the worst thing you can do for other people. You know, calm heads prevail. I live and die by that. Sometimes people think that my non-reactivity means that I don't care, which is not true. I do care, but I want to be productive in my relationships, and I want to be productive in life, and I don't want to waste too much of my time in a crisis that doesn't exist. And it's negative energy. It's not helpful. And so I've really learned how to train myself over the years to be non-reactive. And of course, as a therapist, you know, I have to be careful about that, or else I would make myself crazy. So I would just like to suggest to all of you to really practice non-reactivity, even just for a day, just for one day. Just try not reacting to the things that happen around you and see how it feels, and see whether or not you are more or less productive in getting things done and getting problems solved. And let me know about it, because I would almost guarantee you that it's going to be a lot better for you when you are less reactive to crises. You will get the most accomplished. You will be the most helpful. I mean, think about it. If soldiers went into war to the battlefield freaked out, they would lose. They would get killed, right? So think about that. If you're tending to an emergency or an accident and you're a first responder and you're running, oh my God, you know, they don't look too good, I don't know what's going to happen, you're no good to anybody. You won't be able to help. You won't be able to participate in saving lives, right? You have to move, and you have to be calm, and you have to be able to think in crisis. So these, you know, these super emotional, highly anxious people can really make you crazy. So be aware, be careful, be strong, be calm, and think before you react. And think before you react to other people's crises, because chances are you're not being helpful by being overreactive. And that is my belief. So if you want to learn more about managing your emotions and being non-reactive to crises, of course, you can always call me and set up a session. It would be my pleasure to get in more depth about this. You know, it was funny. One of my clients yesterday said, oh, I catastrophize everything. And I said, okay, you know, so we're starting to really talk about that. What does that mean? What does that look like? What goes on in your body when you're creating that catastrophe? Why are you always second guessing yourselves? You know, these are things that really need to be worked out in therapy a lot of the time. So if you are the crisis creator, or you know of a crisis creator, or you want to learn how to manage one better, please reach out to me and set up a session, and we'll talk about it. And we can come up with some really good ideas that work for you to make your life more peaceful and your relationships more peaceful, and so on and so forth. So on that note, I'm going to get ready to say goodbye to you guys for this beautiful Saturday in sunny Miami. And I hope you're having a beautiful day and a wonderful weekend, and that you'll tune in to Liz Live again Wednesday evening at 8 o'clock and learn some more cool stuff about mental health and relationships. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, The Elizabeth126 on YouTube.com. Follow me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. And let's spread the good word, my friends. God bless you and God bless America. Have a great weekend, everybody.